Okay. Recording BTP episode.
Take one.
Take 100. Look at
Hopefully
that. I have my own
to do
clacker.
more than one. Yeah, I see that. Do you know how many of those I own? That is a very popular gift to people in the film industry. I think I have like 7 of them.
You want to be an actor,
sizes.
right? You need one of these.
I think I have
one of these.
I think I have one of that size, about 4 of like just the one size below that, and like then 2 of the ones that are like really mini.
Love it. Love it.
Anyway.
Love it.
You didn't come here to hear us talk about the film industry, unless the film industry includes the TV show of The Wheel of Time, in which you kind of did, I guess, a little bit. But
Season 2, early 2023. That's all I'm going to say. Go.
Indeed. But you did hear us here. You did come here to hear us talk about The Wheel of Time on this Wheel of Time podcast, the Black Tower podcast, with the lovely 3 of us, who one of us apparently can't speak English and his name starts with D and ends in Aiel. Hi, I'm your Amin Khan Mahale Daniel. I'm the one who's supposed to sing the songs, but I get the words fucking wrong.
Helen is singing, not talking tonight. Okay.
This is such a good start to this episode, guys. This is perfect.
Try doing a sing-song intro to the show. It might work out better for you.
Welcome to the Black Tower podcast. Talking about Wheel of Time. Talking about hosts. Talking about gods. Talking about new season 2023. All right, that was a little bit better. I mean, I hated it, but it was a little bit better as far as like the mouth worked.
Mouth work is important.
Yes.
Well, when you sing song, I guess you give the signals a little more time to travel from brain to mouth.
That is accurate. That is actually fully accurate. When you're in rhythm, sometimes you're like, oh God, this is going so fast. And sometimes you're like, I have a lot of space here. This is great.
It happens. It happens.
Anyway. Hi,
and
I'm Daniel.
I'm another host. I guess the keeper of the taint. Can I say that? Can I be the
Yes.
sword
Yes.
on Mahale?
Please
the
keep
keeper
my taint.
of the taint.
Yes.
Josh,
nothing would make me happier than for the Sora Van Mahale to keep the taint. You're on Taint Watch.
The White Tower has the keeper of the chronicles, right?
You're on Taint Watch.
I'll be the keeper of the taintacles.
I've seen enough hentai to know what this is.
And I'm Josh. You know me by now. If you don't know me by now, you will. It'll be awesome.
All right. Hi, Josh.
How
you feeling over there, buddy?
Oh, it's been a roller coaster. You've probably forgotten me by now, which is that's fine. I kind of actually hope that happens like during times where I'm normally here and not doing my best Moraine impression and just disappearing from the tower. Or disappearing for many books.
How was the trip through the Red Door Grill?
A lot shorter than Moraine's. I actually only disappeared for the release of one book, not several. So. Oh, spoiler warning for anybody out there.
Oh, spoiler!
No, it honestly, just seriously. The beginning of these episodes are always a crapshoot.
Yeah. Well, if you
don't know that
now,
by now,
so.
you're all
and
fucked.
This one is 5 crowns, bitches.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, so I am Andrew. I am by some miracle still your by Sean Mahale. I didn't get lost on my way back. The road to the Black Tower is a lot easier to follow than the road to Tarvalon. You get lost on that road and you travel forever.
There have been
But
people
you enjoyed
who
it
have
the
been
whole time.
on that road for years.
Yeah.
You only were gone for like a month and a half at most. So nice job. Yeah. Apparently our signs work way better.
I mean, I was kind of back last week.
That's true.
No, week before. I don't know. I was back one of those
Both.
weeks.
Yeah. You've
Well,
been back basically.
Well,
for
no,
2 days.
I don't count last week because I fell asleep. I was a tired boy.
That's true. But hey, it was fun. I honestly, last week proved that we could do an episode that was just one of us. I don't recommend it. It's not super fun. But last week when you fell asleep proved that it could be done, and therefore we have no excuse for the rest of ever.
I haven't seen it yet, but what I really want to see is like from Wayne's World, you know, Garth Algar when he's on stage all by himself, and they're like, "You ever see that episode of Scanners where that dude's head blew up?" And it's Garth just being like, that's how I picture a solo episode.
Yeah.
From
So
Daniel.
it's actually an hour and 5 minutes long of me just looking at my camera going,
and then the wheel of
random
time.
spurts of lipstick. Random spurts of lipstick. I do me, would you do me? But only about 3 seconds of the music to avoid copyright. So.
Yes, and then there's a lot of product placement, and then it's over.
Yeah, there's about 30 Jergens bottles in the background.
Yeah, you know,
the whole lineup of Jergens is in the background. Yes. But yeah, no, life has been crazy. I mean, I disappear for a month and a half. Josh goes on vacation to sandy places that don't have internet as well as his house, which is surprising after years of dealing with Xfinity. Yeah, after years of dealing with Xfinity, who knew that your greatest foe would be the same as Anakin's greatest foe?
I don't like sand.
Just sand.
Yeah. Well, see, but you like sand for better reasons, because like Anakin's sand woes were so dumb. Like they're the most obvious things about sand. I don't like sand because it's coarse, then it gets everywhere. Yeah, that's sand. It's fucking like I don't like sand because it messes up Wi-Fi signal. That's a legitimate question of like whether sand would do that. Like you didn't just define sand.
You know what it was?
With your woes,
it was karma for all the microwave jokes that Josh made about me over the years. That's what it was. So you got stuck in a microwave for days.
That literally. The logic tracks.
Yeah. Also, I will say, you being gone in Egypt and having problems with connectivity and whatnot does. I want to say an official, not full apology, because fuck that. But like, whatever just under apology is to Spectrum.
Easy there, Logan Paul.
Because
Daniel's trying to get us canceled.
By the way, you are a way better person. So to put that out there,
I appreciate that.
I got some Logan Paul vibes from the apology. Did you make a continuous and severe lapse in judgment?
No, I did not. I'm just saying that Spectrum, I have been very, very hard on you for years because you're shit. But you're not quite as shit as Egypt Internet. Therefore, I guess I need to count my blessings that you're not as bad as Signal in Egypt. So whatever the one under apology is, because you're still trash, but you're the trash of a very much first world country that relies on internet like crazy.
You're recyclable trash.
There you go.
Or compostable trash, because you
not
still
that far.
have
not that far.
So there's compostable trash,
and then there's
recyclable trash,
which like only like 8% is actually recyclable. And then there's
trash. While you're sitting here listening
that should be one of the reviews on the website. Their next like commercial. choose Spectrum Internet. Better than third world internet.
Right, see, exactly. I felt a little bit bad when Josh was like, hey, the signal's fucking crap and I can't get anything on the internet. I was like, you know what, Spectrum? I have been a little bit hard on you. But fun fact, the entire time that Josh was in Egypt, almost daily, I was getting a text message from Spectrum being like, hey, there's been an outage in your area. It'll be back on in like 3 hours. Now, thankfully, I was getting the like 90% of those while I was at work. So it didn't actually affect me like hardly at all. But at the same time, I was also sitting like they knew that Josh was in Egypt. They sensed that he was having internet troubles and that I might be giving them a little bit more credit. And they were like, nah, let's make 100% sure that Daniel knows we're still shit.
So once you have come to the acceptance of the existential crisis that is your connection to the World Wide Web, throwing it back there, you need to take yourself to blacktowerpod.com.
If you can get there.
A number of very important reasons. For one,
if there's not an outage in your area.
if there's not an outage in your area. For one, it's your one-stop shop for all things Black Tower Podcast. You can join our social medias. We got our Instagram, we got our Twitter, we got our Facebook, we've got our Discord, we got our Patreon, all things you really need to be a part of. We've got our calendar on there that's going to show upcoming events. We have our forums, which are kind of not active, but you could be the one that makes them active. That's it.
Honestly, if you post a good enough topic.
It's seed, man.
Come on.
Just a seed. Yeah, it's a sexy calendar. He who comes with the wine is asking in the chat, oh, we should do boudoir shoots. Sorry, random thought there. Boudoir, BTP calendars. Ozan. I'm in.
Yeah,
Are you in?
I like
Andrew?
it. I hate
Andrew?
the way I look, but I can make it work. We'll get it. We'll get it figured out.
Love the skin you're in, Daniel.
I'm not the one you got to ask that question to.
Oh yeah, Maya. Hey,
Maya. I'm absolving myself with that.
Maya, can he be in a calendar?
Can he come out?
Please?
Can he come outside for the dude bar shoot?
And scantily clad, showing his manly.
Can I just use that?
Up my boombox.
You probably could, actually.
I'm standing outside of Maya's house holding up my boombox, but it's not for her, it's for Andrew.
That should be, there's April right there.
There it is.
Draw me like your French girl picture will be April. So that one's already done. We're ahead of the curve.
Part of why btp.com is so important is because it's got a link to a very important site, which is New Creations by Jenn. newcreationsbyjen.com. She hosts a number of, they are merch producers, very deeply connected to the Wheel of Time community. They do lots of merch for lots of different content creators. The most important and awesome of which is, of course, ours. Just kidding, that was me. There's a lot of good ones, but Black Tower Podcast does have some pretty sick designs on there. If you want to adorn yourself with some of the most amazing, the most amazing merch designs ever, you need to go over to newcreationsbyjen.com and you need to do the Black Tower Podcast and you need to get yourself some shirts and some shot glasses and all the goodness that is to be had there, because let's face it, it's awesome.
Yeah.
If you put me on trial for being awesome, you'd find me guilty because of the overwhelming evidence.
Got him. All right.
Open and shut case. And Andrew, what are we doing tonight? Can you tell me what we're doing? Just give it.
Could you tell us what we're doing right now?
talking about like I don't know, King Killer Chronicles or something like that.
I don't know that one like at all. So
Oh,
that's
it's the
gonna be
opposite.
This is gonna
We're
be a
talking
real
about the-
weird episode.
We're talking about the super nice people. We're talking about the Jenn Aiel.
Oh,
the Jenn Aiel.
Yeah.
who are those guys?
Did they ever show up in the thing?
Okay, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say before we talk too much about the Jenn Aiel, we should probably get some protection
Yeah, no, that would be smart.
because there are lots of really spoilerific topics when it comes to this, and I'm stupid excited about tonight's topic. So mostly because I know the things that I know, right? But I know that the things that I know are limited, and I'm really looking forward to chewing into it, just like biting into it and just like learning more about this because I love the Jenn Aiel. I love the Jenn Aiel as a topic. Okay.
Done.
Hello, I'm Tam Saral Norm. You may remember me from the Dusty Wheel or the Black Tower podcast. I'm here to give you a public service announcement about spoilers, as this episode may contain some. As if you didn't already know that, like watching the film Titanic and being surprised that the boat sinks at the end of the movie.
What?
No, moron. The movie is called Titanic. Of course, the boat fracking sinks. This show is called the Black Tower Podcast, as in from the Wheel of Time. And these three guys are Ashaman. Well, at least two of them. I don't know about that Josh guy. Anyway, you have been warned.
Fantastic.
Josh is an awesome. He just showed up and never went away. He just showed up one day and didn't go away.
Your meatloaf.
Okay, that was good. That was good.
Thank you, Norm. Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Norm. Thank you, Norm. Norm, to you, sir, to your health.
Yeah. And with my
Indeed.
return also comes the return of the soundboard. So until we get it set up for Josh.
Waiting for the blah.
Did I set that
But
one
okay.
back up? Oh no, I gotta fix that one. I'm missing
Oh.
that's the one I'm missing.
Damn it, Andrew.
I mean
No!
that's my favorite line from Rand in season 1. So that's all that matters.
Dude, okay. Like, but that was a good scene though. Like, hit it again. Give it to me, Daddy. No!
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, I just love it when the Lord Dragon
Great
speaks.
success.
Great success. It gives me hot flashes whenever I hear the Lord Dragon get angry. Like, I love it. I love it.
Oh my.
Mr. Rand, you are giving me the vapors.
The Vipers.
The vapors.
Vapors.
Oh.
Vapors, son.
Like, what are we
Okay.
talking about here? Snakes, F-16s, what's going on?
I mean, I've got a coin from the Viper West demo team. It's at work, but I've got one. They're cool. Super cool guys.
Well, if it's at work, then it doesn't count.
Oh yeah. Well, I used to work with the Wascally Weasels. All right. So
I
or
work
Wild
with
Wasp-
Weasel
The
all
Wascally
time.
Wabbit.
Yeah. Wild Weasels, look them up. It's a pretty cool, terrifying job if you're a fighter pilot.
So, the Jenn Aiel. The Jenn Aiel. Now, off the top of my head, the first instance that we get to see the Jenn Aiel is when Rand is in Ruidian, right? That's the first time that we know, or does Someshta, the Green Man, does he talk about them at the Eye of the World?
So
I
it's a
don't-
little
I
hard to
don't think
tell.
He does. I think the first time we get the Jenn Aiel proper is through Rand's memories in the glass columns.
I think you're right, but it's also a little bit difficult to tell because again, I feel like the Jenn Aiel get mentioned actually a handful of times before Rand goes to Ruidian, but it's in that way that you don't know that they're the Jenn Aiel yet. Like, because they'll like say something about like, oh, Rand, you look like an Aiel, and like Aiel really like Aes Sedai, or like blah blah blah. And then it'll be like, no, most Aiel don't actually like Aes Sedai, but the Jenn Aiel did. And therefore there's like this thing. And so again, it's these like references to a specific faction of the Aiel nation, but they don't say, oh yeah, the Jenn Aiel. They just are like talking about them ethereally. So but I think the first time that we hear them called the Jenn Aiel is in the Crystal Columns when Rand goes in.
Okay.
Because I remember, so Semesta talks about how he's been alive for so long, and it's hard to remember many things.
That's right.
And most, I think a lot of what he mentions is either triggered off of what he sees. So, like he who comes with the wine just said in the live chat, he addresses Rand as being either a member of the people of the dragon, or as a child of the dragon. Well, no, I think it was people of the dragon.
People of the dragon, yep.
Because he makes the children of the dragon, which eventually become the children of the corn. I'm sure that's canon. We'll see.
So let it be written.
Lord of the Flies unit.
Yeah.
Lots of bacon in the Lord of the Flies.
Prince of Ravens just becomes Ravens.
That's so Raven.
Oh man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It is.
Okay, so the first time we get the actual name of the Jenn Aiel, the first time we understand who they are or what role they played in the books is when Rand is going through the Crystal Columns in Ruidian, and he's going back in time through the eyes of his ancestors, and there is an ancestor who witnesses the bore, who witnesses the drilling into the bore, right? And he's like running down the street, and someone knocks him over and goes, "Watch where you're going, asshole." And then the lady there is like, "Oh, dude, he's Jenn Aiel." And the guy goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry, Mr. Jenn Aiel." Like, you get the sense that they still have a very like way of the leaf approach to life, the universe, and all things. But in this point in time, they are widely respected.
Yes.
Like imagine, because I know everybody who has a driver's license and who drives down the street can identify with this. Imagine getting into a car accident. Nobody's hurt. It's not a serious car accident, but the other dude is clearly at fault. And you get out and you're like, what the hell is wrong with you? And then you see the guy behind the wheel and he's a Jenn Aiel, and you go, I am so sorry. Like, let me take care of this. Really. That's the equivalent of the amount of respect these people had for the Jenn Aiel. In that one interaction, it sets up this very large foundation of respect and love that the people have for the Jenn Aiel at this time.
Well, they come from another group of Aiel. So they split during the breaking. So they all start as the Dashain, however you say it, Dashain Aiel, and it's during the breaking that they split into the Jenn Aiel, the Tuathon, and then of course the modern Aiel that we know.
Right.
That might be what Morshavi just posted.
Well, no, it's not.
He's
I
talking
would
about
actually
Out of the
say
Dragon.
that I think it's actually not into 3 really, because I think that the Jenn Aiel really do just sort of become the Tuatha, I think that either they die or they become the traveling people. There's not really like a So I guess they do sort of split into three, but there are no Jenn Aiel left. The only thing that actually is a remnant of the Jenn Aiel at this point is the Tuathan in a lot of ways.
Well, by book one, yes, but I mean, like
correct.
initially,
Yeah,
that's
what we know of.
You have some that's because you have some that split, and they maintain the way of the leaf, but they're also going to try to maintain that Aiel somewhat lifestyle, that desolate lifestyle out in the desert. These are going to be the Jenn Aiel that go on to like build Ruidion and go into the waste, and are trying to uphold this promise fully to the Aes Sedai, peacefully to guard everything.
Yes, that is
the Tuathan are going to be the ones that still follow the way of the leaf, but kind of go a different route. They don't go into the waste. They stay in the Westlands, and then you have the modern Aiel who, through the visions we get to see through Rand and Aviendha, obviously take a different trek.
That's interesting, because I actually always thought
how
that
I
it
think
was.
About it.
Yeah, and that's totally legit. And now that I'm hearing it, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But it's also interesting because I've always thought that it was the breaking happens, the Aiel that are basically at that time all Jenn Aiel, but they're not Jenn Aiel because there aren't factions. They're just Aiel. Go to the waste.
Right.
Or are sort of headed to the waste, because of course they fracture before they actually make it to the threefold land.
Yes.
But they're all sort of headed to the waste with all of these carts of ter'angreal and everything for the Aes Sedai. And they start to fracture. And in my head, it was always, that's when the factions of Aiel happen. But then there's also the Jenn Aiel, which is now a faction of the Aiel, which is sort of the originalists. And then they all make it to the waste. And then as Jenn Aiel sort of not necessarily forget their mandate, but like start to like, it gets further and further and further, generation by generation, from what they were told to do for the Aes Sedai. They're still following that way of the leaf. They're still following the nonviolence and everything that was the original Aiel way. And then as I said, as they forget and as time passes and as things happen to them, that's when some of them start to go back to the Westlands, teaching the way of the leaf, and become the Tuathan, rather than them actually fracturing into multiple way of the leaf followers while they're still in Randland. I always thought that it was more Jenn Aiel that have just gone back to the Westlands start calling themselves something else.
So,
I mean, if I were sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say, well, I had a bit of a thought, so go ahead and hit it.
Okay, so at least the way I read it, and I think the way I remember it, is when the Dashane Aiel leave Paradisen, call them dog. I think Paradisen is their final kind of place. They leave with a very small handful of Aes Sedai. No, the Aes Sedai send them. Well, no, I think there's a couple that go with them to.
They have several Aes
monitor
Sedai with them.
They have several Aes Sedai with them. Yes.
And their whole trek from Paradisen out to the waste, and the reason they're even going towards the waste, or what becomes the Aiel waste, is they're trying to avoid detection, and they're being attacked the entire time they're traveling. They're being ambushed, they're being killed by brigands, by male chandlers that are
insane,
kind of drawn. They're insane, and they're kind of drawn in by the presence of the ter'angreal, other chandlers. And you see this massive group moving with Aes Sedai, and there's going to be people that hate the Aes Sedai now because all this is happening because of them in their mind.
Right.
And so in that, I always imagined that you have groups that get separated, they get split off, they get left behind. And the groups that get left behind become the Tuathan. They get separated from the purpose. So they no longer have that. They slowly lose that whole, we had a promise to the Aes Sedai, and so that's why they hold on to the song, because they remember singing the songs to help the growth of the world and the peace of the world and the accumulation of power. And then the distinction between the Jenn Aiel and the modern Aiel comes up through the visions we see with Rand.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Where we see them finally decide, enough's enough. We're not going to be beaten up anymore. Because at this time, they've lost all the Aes Sedai. The Aes Sedai aren't there with them. And they just, you have that group that gets disenfranchised. Like, we're being used. They just left us like lambs for the slaughter to clean up their mess and hold on to their goods for them to come back and take later. And it'll never do anything for us. I'm tired of watching my family get killed and starved and die.
Right, though?
And they decide, and so they decide to do something about it. And they hold on to their, but they hold on to their roots to the Aes Sedai, by using a spear instead of a sword, because a sword's only purpose is to kill, and a spear can be used for many things.
Yes.
So they do that, and then of course the Jenn Aiel hold on to peace and servitude, and that's why ultimately they get to the Aiel waste. They start making Viridian. They're trying to rebuild from the ruins of what the Aes have done, to give the Terangrial or the Angreal in mass a place to reside and a place for the Aes Sedai to return to.
Ruins? Ruidian?
Is the way I always not always kind of read it, but as we're talking about it, the way I think about it, I don't know that I really actually gave it a ton of thought, other than the general, like, yeah, of course the Tuathan came from the Jenn Aiel, and of course the Jenn Aiel came from the massive group in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's just a question of sort of when that split happened and how it happened, and I'm guessing that the answer is both. Like
a bit, yeah. Well, I mean, we get to see
it's going to have to be gradual over time.
We get to 100%. See the exodus from Paradisen through Rand's visions in the Crystal Columns, which is a shit ton of carts filled with Angreal, Sangreal, and Terangreal. It is being taken away to protect them from the madness of male channelers. And at that point in time, the Aiel are a homogenous group of people who are living that day's equivalent of the Way of the Leaf. They are the ultimate pacifists. They leave Paradisen. They begin their trek across the Westlands, and I don't think they have a destination in mind. If I'm not mistaken, their goal is to find a safe place.
Correct.
They don't know where that safe place is. They're seeking that safe place. And once they find that safe place, they will store the Terangreal, Angreal, and Sangreal until it's safe again for everybody. And I believe the implied mission is to basically, stay on the move until whatever this is solved. So I think this is one of my favorite bits of storytelling that Robert Jordan gives us, because as we know, and as we get confirmation from interviews and journals, notes, and most recently with Origins of the Wheel of Time, written by Michael Livingston, which if you haven't read it, please go read it. Like, holy hell, it's so good. You get to learn a lot of things about how Robert Jordan loves the idea of historical misunderstandings perpetrated along a long timeline, right? Examples of this is Lem flying to the moon in the belly of an eagle, and it's like, okay, but John Glenn wasn't the one who went to the moon first. It was Neil Armstrong. But historically speaking, it's not a big leap to combine the two people into one person who went to the moon. And then it was no longer a space shuttle. It was no longer a space program. It was an eagle the evolution of the culture is really, I think, intriguing, because you have the Aiel leaving Paradisen with carts full of these objects of power. And as they travel, you have what's widely accepted as the first split. And I think, and I'm not exactly sure the details on this one, because the first one is the group of Aiel who went, okay, it's cool that we're wandering around with these objects of power. That's not going to fix it. We used to sing. We used to.
Andrew just posted it in the.
Oh,
in the thing, yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, look at you, Andrew.
Yeah.
You want to hit
The
that?
founding of a Tuatha.
Hit that.
Yeah. So if you just read the,
I was about to say, you're the one who posted it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was like, you said hit that. I thought there was like kudos or something like that.
Well,
I was like,
also
oh.
kudos. Also,
All right. So the first split amongst the Dashain Aiel occurred there. So they're traveling in the southern part of the Westlands, and they were raided. Some of them, led by Solwyn, decided, hey, fuck the Aes Sedai commands because we're the ones fucking dying. So screw that. We're gonna abandon these relics because they're just slowing us down, weighing us down, and making us nice, juicy targets for all these brigands and such. So we're just gonna leave. We're going to stick. It's funny, they say screw the command, but they're following the first promise they made to the Aes Sedai to continue moving until they find a place of safety where no one can harm them. Which, spoiler alert, that doesn't actually exist. But anyway, it's a nice idea. And so they're like, but we get this indication that they have been traveling for a very long time at this point, because even at this split, when they leave, they're like, we're going to go find somewhere safe, and we're going to find the songs we've forgotten that we sang to mourn, that we sang to bring about peace, that we sang all the time for the Aes Sedai to aid them. And this is whenever Aiden, outraged, looks at Solwyn's group and says, you no longer have the right to call yourself Aiel, and thus the Tuatha name is born, or the traveling people. And of course, they still follow the way of the lead.
They deem finding the song finding the song as we know it in the time that we read the books, but they start prioritizing that as a means of healing rather than just wandering with relics.
correct.
Actually, sorry, they keep the first two promises to the Aes Sedai, because the second is to keep the covenant the way of the lead.
Yes.
Right.
Also, I just want to throw out there, this does not happen very rarely, but Andrew brought receipts. I'm just wrong. I'm not going to say that there aren't ever any Jenn Aiel who leave Ruidian after going to the Waste to go join the traveling people in the Westlands, but he 100% brought receipts. And so, yeah, he's just right, and I'm just misremembering the story. So, nicely done.
In all fairness,
there's definitely 3 different kind of Aiel.
Time for a reread.
Right? Apparently. I got to go back through those crystal columns.
I kind of want to, you know what? I'm doing a reread. I'm going to start tomorrow. It's happening. Eye of the World happening.
Guys.
Wait,
guys.
You now actually have 15 books to read because Origin.
Yes!
There was only 14 before. Now there's 15.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I know that you think one of them is a conspiracy, but one of them, it is 16
Andrew,
books long.
There are 16 books, Andrew.
No, there's only 15.
I hate to break this to you.
Actually, that's not true. That's not true. There are actually 18 books.
I wasn't counting the companion or the big bad book, the big white book of bad art.
Yep.
I almost pulled a Malka Cosmo. Wasn't counting those because they're like definitive, like glossary compendium kind of.
Well, as is Origin of the Wheel of Time in a lot of ways. It's not. No. I get that it's not totally written that way, but neither is the basically the new version of the big bad book of white art. Wait. It's also written more story-esque as well, and so the only one that's like really just straight up fucking glossary is the companion.
The companion is more like an appendix.
Yes.
I mean,
You can remove your appendix and be totally fine, but
Glad we were going the same place with that.
But yeah,
I was about
anyway.
to say, like, its only purpose is to sit there and like gather bacteria, kind of. They think, maybe.
So we have the first break, or the first split, where I mean, and picture this though. You've got
Beats, Bears,
thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know. In Rand's visions, when he's going through the glass columns, it's implied that the wagon train is so massive that you can't stand at the front of it and see the end of it. Like there's just so many people there. It's insane, and it's all with the purpose of, we got to make sure that insane men don't find this.
We got to make sure insane clown posse doesn't find the Angreal.
ICP can't find me.
Imagine what they can do with all their Fago and Angreal.
As
But the real question is, did the Jenn Aiel need to buy their own uniforms and equipment and camping gear and firearms and
all my Aiel Juggalo homies?
Okay.
We don't wear a veil. We just paint our face.
I hate everything about this analogy right now.
Why? It's fantastic.
So the first split is people basically being like, okay, we've been wandering around for, I don't know, it's been a couple decades at least. Like it's
Anybody
not
else getting like Old Testament Exodus vibes,
Moses vibes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's like probably like super clear.
Oh, I was gonna say, like,
I'm not saying that like that's a revolutionary.
Not like
no.
Okay, good. Thank God. Ooh, I was worried
Thankfully,
about you for just a second.
I grew up with the Christian tradition, so anytime anybody leaves, my brain hardwires to go to Exodus.
Good luck wandering for 40 years, motherfucker. Like,
just get a GPS. Go.
So, but
in
they've been
4,000 miles,
if
left
I'm
turn.
Right. We read left turns for the last 800 years. I feel like at this point in time, these guys are going, okay, it's not getting better. The problems are not being solved. And as we know from the Breaking of the World, you had a problem with, you had two problems. 100 years later, you still had two problems. One problem was 99 problems, but a sardine ain't one. You had male channelers who had been inside steadings who went, maybe it's okay now. I can lead the steading. I'm insane. And caused another issue, which I believe is a pretty strong metaphor for people who have.
Imagine stepping outside and getting
issues,
boom, snapped to reality.
For people who have medications, when you have a medication that you need to take your medication.
Spaghetti.
Don't just stop taking your medication all of a sudden one day and go, I'm better. Take your meds. It's okay. And
Ileana's blood on the sweater already.
Of new male.
I'm gonna mute my mic because I am just interrupting Josh left and right.
No, you're good. You're good. You got some solid points. And the second problem they keep running against is new male channelers being born, who will obviously inevitably touch the source and go insane as well and be drawn to the objects of power. And you've got these people that have been doing this for decades, presumably. And they go, look, it's not getting better. We're doing this. We're wandering around because the Aes Sedai told us to. The Aes Sedai aren't even with us anymore. We keep getting attacked. We keep getting killed. We're going to abandon these objects of power, and we're going to go back to what we knew once upon a time, which was we had singing, we were working with the Ogier, we had songs of power. There were all these things. So we're gonna leave, we're gonna dip, and we're gonna go back to what we knew, which was serving and extreme pacifism. And they just kind of go, okay, bye. We're heading out. We're gonna leave now.
I'm head out.
Yeah, you guys can keep doing that. It's cool. You're awesome.
Solon grows out his hair and just looks at Aiden and is like, you know what was really sweet? When we just sat around saying help people and nobody tried to fucking murder us. We're gonna go try to do that again.
Did Robert Jordan make a hippie joke? Is that a hippie joke? Because
one of the
Solon
things
did specifically grow out his hair to not look like a Jenn Aiel.
I mean, the whole thing is probably a nod to the 60s. I mean, RJ was kind of in, you know, the name.
Also, three things that I want to say about what you just brought up. Number one, well, sort of three things in general, because I think one of these was Andrew, to be fair. Number one, I do appreciate the fact that I want to now see a short of an Ogier holding on to the end of a rope tied around a male channeler as they walk out of the steading. And he's just like, it's probably fine. I'm probably going to be okay. But just in case, if I walk out there and start freaking out, just pull me right back in, man.
I love that. I love the idea of having, like, you know, those like lifesaver rings that are always on ships.
Yeah.
And it's man overboard, throw out a lifesaver ring.
Yeah.
I want a lifesaver. want the lifesaver rings hanging on trees at the border of the steady.
There we go. Yes. And then
in case of insane channeler, toss out of steading.
In case of insanity, break glass. And number two,
In case of insanity,
I do
break
also,
glass and whoop ass.
I do also really appreciate that. Again, this is a situation where, as we've already talked about, there is a lot of just shit going on in the world. And they've been at this for a long time. And the longer and longer and longer and longer that you do things, the more you're going to get frustrated with your current situation, whatever that might be. You could even have a great situation going on. And if you just do that over and over and over again, you're going to get tired of it. Now add to that the fact that these people aren't in a great situation, and it gets old a lot fucking faster. And so they're running around doing the same thing every day and getting screwed over by just about everybody. And so I really appreciate that there are 3 mandates that Andrew put in to the chat here, that the promise is that the Aiel made to the Aes Sedai before they left Paradisen. 1, to keep moving, always moving, till they find a place of safety where no one can harm them. 2, keep the covenant the way of the leaf. 3, preserve the objects given into their charge until they want them again.
You read the second one, to keep the covenant, and all I could think was just like an image in my head of Master Chief looking up, being like, what?
Master Chief.
I will keep the covenant.
In the ground.
But so what I'm interested in here is that there are 3 kinds of Aiel here. One of them is doing all 3. They say, we are absolutely the originalists. We really need to go ahead and do this. We made these promises to the Aes Sedai. We will keep them until the end. There's another.
You know what
group,
Jenn Aiel translates to, right?
I do not remember word for word, but it's like the ones who keep the covenant or whatever.
So yeah, in short, like modern English, it'd be true dedicated.
Yeah, there you go. And so then you have a group who's like, all right, the Aes Sedai aren't even here anymore. We want to keep moving and find a safe place. We want to keep the Covenant, but fuck their objects. Their objects are not important to us. Get this shit out of here. I'm so done with it. The wagons are actually part of what's holding us back. Let's just go.
In the
Boom.
words
Now
of
you have-
George Thurgood, that don't confront me.
Right? So now we have a group who's doing all three. Now we have a group who's doing two. And then you have the ones who are just like, guys, we don't need to keep their stuff, and the Covenant isn't helping us. We're done. So they're still moving, always moving, till they find a place of safety, which is the waste, which I mean, like, you could argue that it's
Just keep
safe,
swimming,
but at least
just
it's
keep
safe
swimming.
from people in a lot of ways. Like, it's Australia, so everything there wants to kill you, but not like humans, like just like everything else just wants to kill you. You know, the sun, the lack of water, all the animals, like everything else wants to kill you, but the people are like, meh, they don't really come here much. So it's like safe. But again, I really love that Robert Jordan did that again, where he was like, 3 commandments, 3 groups of people who lose each one of the or who decide that their mandate is no longer to follow all 3, but just one of their promises, or the ones that they feel the most obligated to, or the ones that resonate with them the most, or whatever it is that you want to say. But there are people who are going to lose those promises after years and years and generations of trying to follow this and just getting fucked. And I think I had a third one, but I don't remember what it was. So there you go.
I have 2.
Great.
I know I said it earlier, and I am now realizing that I was wrong. Other than the Aiel that split off and become the Tuatha, and the Aiel that split off to become the modern Aiel.
Yeah.
Those that remain as the Jenn Aiel still have Aes Sedai with them. So Aes Sedai watch the promises that were made to them be broken.
Oh shit.
The second, because it's the Aes Sedai that actually they create the ter'angreal in Ruidion, so that the Aiel can remember their past, so that they're ready for the fight against the Shadow. And to that end, I would posit that the Jenn Aiel, I like the evenness of the 3, but I would posit that the Jenn Aiel actually kept all 3 promises.
Oh, 100%. I agree with that. Yeah. That was what I was saying, was that there was...
Oh, okay, I got you.
The modern Aiel keep number 1. The Tuatha keep 1 and 2. The Jenn Aiel keep 1, 2, and 3. Nobody loses all of them, but each group sort of... each break loses one of the promises. And so there are 2 breaks, 3 groups, 2 promises.
How many times
also,
do we see this?
I remembered what I was thinking, and I also thought of a new one. It'll be quick. My third thought was, how fucking amazing would it be if, like, for the premiere of whatever season for the TV show has the crystal columns in it, they just make a crystal columns, and it's just like, obviously everybody would see the same thing, or like they'd have a few loops or whatever, but like you could just walk through the crystal columns and like watch like these video screens or like these holograms or whatever going on around you. It would be fucking amazing. And my other thought right there is that's actually one of the things I've always thought was interesting about their feeling towards the Aiel or the Aes Sedai, because the Tuatha don't seem to actually care that much about Aes Sedai. They've kind of lost the Aes Sedai thing entirely, but
well, yeah,
but the Jenn Aiel still have Aes Sedai with them and still very much respect them and are like, these were our we were dedicated to them. They are still the people that we follow. But even the modern Aiel that have gone away from the Way of the Leaf and gone away from Ruidion in a lot of ways. I mean, they still use it for different rituals and things, but blah blah blah. Even the modern Aiel who kind of dislike the Aes Sedai, because they'll like see an Aes Sedai and they're like, hey, you guys were the ones who mandated us to do stuff, and then fucking we kept dying and you didn't do shit, like that kind of stuff. They don't like them, but they still respect them. And it's this really weird relationship that I've always really appreciated of the Aiel, is this like, some of them really don't like Aes Sedai, but when they speak, they listen. Some of them are still super devoted to Aes Sedai, even though they're not actually Jenn Aiel, and still like listen when they speak. But it's always respect, even though it's this sort of spectrum of like either fuck the police or like no, the police are amazing. Like it's this whole like thing of you'll meet Aiel who are like, Aes Sedai are shit. But then Moiraine shows up and they're like, all right, listen to what she has to say. But then there are others who are like, Aes Sedai are dope. And then Moiraine shows up and they're like, all right, cool. Moiraine's the shit. And so it's like this weird, I've always thought that was a really cool thing that Robert Jordan had. Anyway, Josh, you had thoughts? Go.
It's interesting to me because you're absolutely correct. We talk about the first split. We talk about the first time that people left the caravans with the objects of power. And they go, we're getting attacked, we're getting killed, it's not cool, this isn't helping. I think that's a huge distinction point, right? Because their point is, this isn't helping. These objects are not important. Nobody's stealing these objects. They're just killing us. Like, it's not, they're more historical relics than they are tools to be used. And so they leave and they say, yeah, we're gonna try and find the original way things were done, because that's what's gonna help. They're looking for a way to help, which is very, very, very Jenn Aiel of them.
Oh yeah.
The second split, which I believe is the piece of lore that establishes the foundation for the modern Aiel, happens when you've got raiders who aren't just content to attack, kill, and rob. They also have to kidnap.
Yep.
And there are some people that are like, look, we're not okay with this. We need to go rescue our kids. Like, they're kids. They can't, this is not okay. They form a party, they put on their dust veils, and they're like, we're gonna go get our kids back. And one of them accidentally, in self-defense, kills one of the raiders. And we actually did go back and listen to our Crystal Columns episodes, because we actually did some audio auditions, which is great. I love it. And we've got a person named Lewin, who is the leader of the rescue party. And while this rescue party is happening, one of the raiders dies, thus not following the way of the leaf. But in this moment, the rescue party kind of goes, okay, yeah, we're not following the way of the leaf, but we are preserving our ability to follow the rules of the Aes Sedai, to follow the charge of the Aes Sedai, which is to protect these goods. And I understand that the modern Aiel don't necessarily have that charge, but they definitely have a mentality of, we need to learn to fight to protect ourselves, so that in the last battle we can protect the dragon reborn. And so it's a very interesting cultural evolution that we get among the progression of the story.
It's interesting too, because they change from being the servants of the servants to being the people of the dragon. And in the breaking, or right before the breaking, like literally right before the breaking, what did the dragon do? He went out and he waged war. So it's fitting that they're named and becomes the people of the dragon, being that they would kind of follow in the dragon's footsteps, following in the kind of male-led channeler sept of the, or not channeler sept, but the 100 companions. But the other thing that I find interesting is, so we're talking, this is pre-White Tower, an era where oath rods and binding rods existed. It wasn't an oath rod yet. I mean, same thing, but it was only used for criminals. So these Aes Sedai, they're not giving up half of their life unless like they're convicted of some crime, and then they're exiled anyway.
Right.
So the breaking lasts anywhere between 239-ish to 200 or 344 years. 239 to 344 years, somewhere around in that is the length, which is, I think, without a binding rod or oath rod, well within the lifespan of Aes Sedai.
Oh, 100%.
So I'd be interested,
Cadswain
and I
is
wonder,
or not Cadswain, one of the kin is like 400 years old. So yeah.
Right.
So assuming that they don't get killed off, the Aes Sedai remain with them, and I'm sure they might have like young children maybe that become Aes Sedai or something. I'm sure there's at least one or two of those. Statistically, there kind of has to be. But for the Daishain Aiel and then the subsequent 3 sections or septs of Aiel, if you would want to call it the septs of the Aiel that go into more septs below them, they're going through many generations, as we see through Rand's views. So the Aes Sedai are like, yeah, I was there when y'all made this promise, and they're talking to like the third generation. Yeah, they're talking to like the third generation of the Aiel, who by now only know of Paradisen as a folk tale that their parents and the craze and the magic, the magic ladies tell them about. There's nothing tangible about that. They have no ties to Paradisen, other than the Aes Sedai being there and helping them. They have no ties to the Aes Sedai. So it makes sense that ultimately that the modern Aiel are very respectful of the Aes Sedai.
Yep.
But all they really remember is our ancestors made promises. They broke the promises. So now our punishment is to live in the threefold land as atonement. But we heavily respect Aes Sedai. But there's still that fire in their bellies about,
yes,
we respect them, but they're not in charge of us anymore.
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy to think about that. The same Aes Sedai that charges them. Oh gosh, what was her name? Selindra. Yeah, Selindra. Yeah, Selindra Sedai. That there's if she survived and went with them, there's a good chance she was there when the glass columns were built. And that would also make sense as to why they hold the memories of so many different ancestors, which I wonder how they did that. Like, did they have a way to capture the memories of these Aiel as they were dying or before they died, to record them in some way to play them back? Because we don't see them come from like a third person kind of view. Rand experiences them as the ancestor.
That's
it's almost like the Avatar movie where they could like kind of port their memories into the trees or into the planet.
I feel like it's more like the Animus from Assassin's Creed, where it doesn't actually matter what was happening when they died, but it's like etched in your DNA is basically what they're saying.
I love that.
Oh yeah, no, dude, from the very day that I started playing Assassin's Creed, which was after I read this particular book with the crystal columns, I was just like, did some motherfucker read Wheel of Time and just decide that this was like...
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Ubisoft. I know you
like what He Who Comes with the Wine says. I think that's a good idea. And it would kind of match
taps into the threads of the pattern. Yeah. Nice. I also like that. Good catch, Andrew. And good post. He Who Comes with the Wine.
The big important thing is you've got... I almost wonder if there's a...
Thank God we have...
The reason the glass columns were built and purposed was a sort of, don't forget where you come from. We understand the only thing the only guarantee that we have in life is that shit changes, right? And those who forget the past are destined to repeat it. So when you have this kind of ter'angreal, and we do have confirmation of 2 Aes Sedai that helped build and established Ruidian, and it stands to reason that they also helped build the glass columns ter'angreal. I would think, or I would guess, that they built the glass columns ter'angreal with the idea or purpose of creating an anchor point for the Aiel at a specific point in time, so that they had some connection or link to the past, so that they may learn where they come from, so that they may know where they need to go in the future.
Yep.
Which I know sounds incredibly vague, but I think in the context of the story, it is incredibly important. As we see with Rand basically spilling the tea and saying, yep, this is what it is. And all of the Aiel leadership going, oh, fuck. Couladin's a bitch and Rand is it.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that there were some of them who went, Couladin is an idiot, but I don't like what Rand is saying. And
sure.
I know that that's what's really happening, but I'm going to just pretend like that's not what's really happening.
Yep.
And you just have a real, like, impressive bit of cultural, I don't want to say like disillusion. I don't want to say that the culture dissolved or disappeared. I don't think it did. I think a more accurate descriptor of what happened to the culture of the Jenn Aiel is like what you guys were implying earlier, and that is that you had the Jenn Aiel as a homogenous group who followed 3 oaths, and then you had some splits, and it formed what we as readers initially recognized as 2 separate groups. One, the Tuatha An, in their wagons, wandering aimlessly, looking for the song, and 2, the traditional Aiel, who are combatants in the highest order. And it seems to directly fly in the face of the original Jenn Aiel, but at the same time, you talk to them about it and they go, okay, that's like one thing that we didn't do, but the other 2 things we did really, really great. So, yep. I mean, 2 out
so give us credit.
No,
2 out of 3 ain't
be
bad.
sad, because 2 out of 3 ain't bad. R.I.P. Meatloaf.
Also, so I just had a little bit of, I mean, my mind wasn't blown, but I had a cool thought, which was that He Who Comes with the Wine said something earlier that was, it traces your thread back and back and back. And I love the idea in a lot of ways of the tapestry of the ages and all of the threads and whatnot being, those pictures where like it's a picture but it's made up of a shitload of pictures?
Yeah.
I just love to imagine the idea of like the first people who were put into the world were threads in the pattern, and they formed together one picture, like one image, one tapestry. And then as they had kids, their threads went off and started making other new pictures. And now you just have this absolutely giant tapestry that is so many pictures made up of so many other pictures. And basically what the Crystal Columns is doing is you walk into them and it zooms in on your ancestors'
that.
pictures that are little parts of the larger pictures and whatnot. I fucking love that. That's amazing.
I love that.
It comes
Let's
to the
keep going
line,
farther
you
back.
and I are so on board. You same brainwaves. Sorry, Andrew, you were saying?
Let's keep going further back so we can see what podcast Rand's ancestors were on or listened to.
The Black
There you
Tower
go.
podcast, obviously.
No,
Yeah.
Rand's ancestors listened to earlier podcasts.
I hate to break it to you.
Rand's father actually was a contributor on Dragon Mount, and then before that, it was.
Wait.
Tom.
Wait.
Tom and Tom. Okay.
Tom and Tam. Tom.
Oh, yeah. Why did I say Tom and Tom? I definitely meant Tom and Tam.
Okay, listen.
Tom and Tom? It's
Tom,
actually a really good coffee place in California.
Tom is a really great guy as well. Oh, okay. He's. Do you think he knows? Do you think he knows?
No,
I think he knows. I don't think he knows.
It's Tom, Dick,
I think
and Harry,
he is
just like the
blissfully
original,
ignorant.
like Tom, Julian, and Matt.
There you go. All right.
Okay, so here's the thing. Jenn Aiel, final thoughts. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Go.
So my final thoughts on the Jenn Aiel
Just gets up and walks away.
I'm gonna split myself into three people. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think I have the fortitude to actually have been one of the Jenn Aiel, one of the people who actually kept every promise to the Aes Sedai that they made leaving Paradise. I think that I am a man of integrity. And certainly, again, if you think about sort of if I was a person who lived long enough to be an Aes Sedai or whatever, that if I personally made those promises to the Aes Sedai, then I would keep it till the end if I lived that long personally. But if I was fourth generation, fifth generation, sixth generation of human born into a situation where my ancestors made these commitments to the Aes Sedai, I don't think I would have had the fortitude to go along with it. I'm pretty sure I absolutely would have turned to your shit's not important to me, I'm out, or I'm sick of my family and friends being killed and or taken, and I gotta go spear a motherfucker in the face. Like, I feel very strongly that I would not have the fortitude to do it, which means that I am that much more impressed, given that I don't think I could do what these people did, that there was anybody left by the end of this trip. And that there was anybody left to build Ruidian, and anybody left with any wagons of Ter Ungrial at all, and that, or Ungrial, or, you know, whatever, that reading the story, I just feel so much for the people who left the original Aiel Covenant, that the fact that anybody even started on Ruidian blows my mind on some levels. And so I cannot respect these people enough. I know that they are fictitious, but there are people out there in the world who, after generation are still keeping promises that their parents and grandparents and great grandparents made to people or families or whatever. And I couldn't do it. And so the respect that I have for this group of people who made it to the waste with any amount of wagons, started building Ruidian, started going ahead and sort of like penultimate completing their sort of promises to their servants, the people that they were serving, is so impressive to me. And it has always been a thing where I wish that I was the kind of person who could actually do that, but I don't think I am. And so the Jenn Aiel are dope, and they should always be regarded with respect. And that's it. They should just always be regarded with respect.
Andrew, what you got? What you got?
I mean, I agree a lot with what Daniel said. If it was me as I am now, like, or with my current mentality, placed into the middle of the Dashain IL, same thing. I wouldn't have blasted past the first encounter. I would have started picking up shit and stabbing motherfucker, or something. It's impossible to know how I would have actually done it, because I also wasn't born, bred and raised, in this kind of like emphasis on peace, you know.
Mhm.
Which we see isn't full.
That's
I
also
mean,
fair,
that's the
yeah.
biggest thing with the dumpster fire that is Aram. Is that
Mhm.
he's born and bred into the way of the leaf, and abandons it. And once he abandons that, he also abandons all other morality that anybody would consider normal. So
See,
maybe
and that's
maybe he's just a shit person, but
I was
or
gonna
has
say,
issues. Who knows? It's one of the two: shit person or has issues.
Yes.
or some combination of both.
Yeah, it could be both.
Yeah.
¿Por qué no los dos? But I don't know. And I'll bring it up because if Josh wasn't already planning on it, I know Jamie or he who comes with the wine has brought it up in the live chat. The remaining Jenn Aiel, it is the one part of Origins that I have at least skimmed through, and I remember vaguely enough to bring it up. The Jenn Aiel as a people are unequivocally extinct. As a people,
Yes.
they no longer exist.
Yes.
However, there is a lineage that, at least through the events of the series that we read, or at least up through well, when do we see her last? When do we see Nakomi last?
She shows up
is it only
Memory of Light.
Okay, so
she shows up in A Memory of Light for a little bit for one conversation.
She talks to Rand, yeah,
and then she's gone again. So she shows up twice.
Oh yeah, because she
Both
talks
to
as Rand
Rand.
leaves Shao Ghul.
Yes, exactly. And so she shows up twice, and the first conversation is like actually a whole thing. The second conversation is like a blip. Like
yeah. Nakomi is the latest in the line. It's not implied that she is the last of her lineage, so that would imply, I mean, theoretically there has to be a hidden sept of Jenn Aiel with enough populace to continue to have progeny, to continue to make descendants. And there's a chance that whenever the rest of the Aiel send off, like we have the Lost, or they send off the male channelers before they know everything's cleansed, that some of these folks are picked up and absorbed into the Jenn Aiel. That might be how they're keeping their numbers up and keeping the gene pool diversified enough to, avoid the obvious problems of being royalty. I mean, inbreeding, which I think is pretty cool. But we do find out that as a reward for maintaining their promises to the best of human capability, that the Jenn Aiel lineage continues on to provide a vessel or avatar of the creator. So a light side version of Shadar Haran for the creator. And that becomes part of the purpose, lore, and identity of the clan, which I think, considering who their avatars of will continue on, it might just be through sheer creator willpower. I mean, you don't get a name like creator without being able to just create more Jenn Aiel. That they will continue on in perpetuity and probably provide a lot, if not the entirety, of the impetus for the reforming of the Daishain Aiel in the future. So yeah, that's my thought.
All right, real quick before Josh goes, I had a thought earlier and I do want to throw it out here real quick. number one, I think this actually, with the advent of actually finding out who Nakomi is, I think that we've not fully, because you never really can, but like more so put a solid hole in the thought that the creator is actually non-existent at this point. If he actually has if the creator actually has an avatar a la Shada Haran in the world acting on it and shows up twice, I think that mostly proves that the creator is actually just hands off rather than, oh, they destroyed themselves in the creation of the world or blah 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 blah, which we've actually discussed on this show before, which is why I brought it up. Again, not completely gone, because again, trying to go ahead and put in human logic into God or the devil or the Dark One or the creator is a little bit foolhardy, because of course it is. They are clearly outside the pattern and outside of time and outside of reality, and so rules don't apply. But at the same time, it's not a completely wrong thing to do. And then the number two thing that I had was my thoughts on sort of the continuation of the Jenn Aiel is it's a little like the Malkiri, where Malkir as a nation is gone. Malkir as a country is gone. 100% out. 100% done. Malkir doesn't exist. You got to go into the Blight and fight through a bunch of shit just to get to Malkir, and then you're probably going to die in Malkir anyway because you're still in the Blight. But at the same time, Nynaeve walks around going ahead and finding people who were once Malkiri or descendants of Malkiri or whatever you want to call them, and says, hey, yo, Golden Crane flies for Tarmin Gaiden. Go join him. And they go, boom, done. I am Malkiri. I am off to go ride with Lan. And so there is a little bit of like, even if the sort of nation is extinct, does that actually ever mean the people are? It's hard to say. That's kind of what I feel about the Jenn Aiel, is that they aren't a thing anymore, but there are absolutely people, if you walked up to them and said, are you Jenn Aiel? They would go, I am. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I believe within a month, it depends on if they do it on or the day after the anniversary. We're not done getting never before revealed to the public information.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I mean, I think that we'll. I would not say that we'll get that forever, but I think within my lifetime we will still not run out of like things that Robert Jordan had in his notes and whatnot that are.
Well, I mean, we have a date that something is allowed to be revealed, that Brandon Sanderson knows, has told Rave, and it will be able to share on or after the 8th of January.
Exactly. So. And I think that there will continue to be things like that throughout the entirety of at the very minimum throughout the entirety of the lifetime of the TV show, if not the entirety of my lifetime, for example. Because again, one of the things that we've said before and we'll say again is that Robert Jordan took extensive notes, and there is so much that he wrote down that never made it into a book. And so I'm looking forward to all of those different things. Anyway, sorry, I have interrupted Josh enough. What are your final thoughts? Please go for it.
My final thoughts with the Jenn Aiel, I absolutely love this culture for two reasons. One, because you have some of the, as Daniel and Andrew have identified, you have some of the most morally strong, most convicted characters / culture in the entire story. Evidence of this is when the thousands of Aiel linked arms and sang to Lews Therin to try and bring him back. and Lews Therin killed every single one of them. And now you think to yourself, oh yeah, cool, he killed them all. That doesn't necessarily mean they're strong. No, what makes them strong is the last one stood there and sang for hours. I don't remember. I don't know.
Could have been minutes. Could have been hours, but I'm sure it felt.
I'm gonna say it was hours. And Lews Therin stood there, stared into the eyes of this person as he sang for the healing of the dragon, only to finally be killed at the hands of that same man. Mm-hmm. This man who had killed thousands of people, this Jenn Aiel who watched thousands of his brothers and sisters, his kinsmen, murdered brutally by the power, and then stood there and stared Lews Therin in the eyes, knowing and seeing firsthand what he had done, and still sang to him to please come back. Please, please, this is not you. This is not you. And it's such a tragic moment in the stories, but it speaks to the moral turpitude of the Jenn Aiel. It speaks to their absolute supreme integrity. And you get a sense of how dedicated these people are to their cause. And when you have that illustration, and I apologize to everybody in the live chat, I hurt people, and it's okay.
I mean, technically, you just brought up a thing that Robert Jordan hurt us with, but
that hurt us all.
I hate to be that guy, but quick point of correction: that wasn't Lews Therin. That was Jarek Mondoran.
Oh fuck! You're right.
O-R-A.
You're right.
Same thing. Right. And he did, like, he looked at them like he was puzzling through them. Mm-hmm. And he would kill some.
Right.
They would close the ranks. He would puzzle it out some more. He would kill more until there was only one left. And the story goes that he listened to the last one sing for almost an hour before he killed them, and then turned Zora, which was the city, Tzora, turned it into a literal sheet of glass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you imagine being that last Jenn Aiel, singing for an hour, literally surrounded by the entrails of your brothers and sisters?
Mm-hmm. No. The answer is I do not have the fortitude to do so. But yeah, continue.
And so what you have is you have this really impressive cultural evolution from Jenn Aiel to Tuatha An and modern, quote unquote, modern day Aiel. And
thanks, Sidra.
One thing that remains unchanged across all of them is their dedication to what they believe is the most important aspect of their culture. You cannot. They gave up on, the modern Aiel gave up on the way of the leaf. Mm-hmm. They gave up on killing. They gave up on fighting and violence and combat, but they never gave up on their dedication to the dragon, the dedication to not carrying a sword. Mm-hmm. The Tuatha An never gave up on finding the song, finding what's going to heal the rift, what's going to heal the one power, so that they don't have to live in fear anymore. And to set such a powerful foundational example, I think, is a truly unique and powerful thing. And I really, really love that. Mm-hmm. I know it's a painful story. I know it hurts, but it gives us such a beautiful illustration of how dedicated these people were and continue to be to what they believe is important to healing the world.
Yep.
And I love it. It is just one of the many facets of what makes the Wheel of Time the greatest story ever told.
Agreed.
So, hey, thanks for being here, guys.
Gotta fucking breathe for a second after Josh just beat the shit out of me with Robert Jordan's story.
Punched you in your emotional nuts. And I am not sorry.
Wait, is it like metaphorical nuts that are just emotional, or it's like, do his nuts have tear ducts?
Both.
Do they blush?
Porque no los dos.
Fair enough. Excuse me, these are my reproductive nuts, and these are my emotional support.
These
nuts.
are my spiritual cojones.
Emotional support.
Please don't punch me in my aura cojones.
Oh, yikes. Yep.
Thanks
All
for
right,
being
guys.
here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being awesome. Thanks for being the best damn listeners in the entire Wheel of Time fandom. I mean, we know that, you know that. It's the best kept secret, if I'm saying it. Okay, I'm just saying it. I'm just saying. You guys are awesome. Daniel's awesome. Andrew's awesome. I'm awesome. We're all awesome together. We're on this big journey of awesomeness together. I want to thank you personally.
One might even say, everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team.
One might indeed say that.
When you live in the dream.
One might indeed say that. One might indeed say that. It is true. But I want to thank you all for conducting yourselves in an orderly fashion whilst receiving this week's dose of taint. We thank you for listening. We thank you for being here. And we hope that when you leave here, you leave just a little bit more insane than you were before. And so from all of us here at the Black Tower, I have been your Sorovan Mahale, Josh.
The keeper of the taint.
The keeper of the tentacles.
I have been your Bajan Mahale, Andrew.
And I have been your Amin Khan Mahale, Daniel. And from all of us here at the Black Tower, again, Josh said it very eloquently. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always being here. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
You just dropped like a double bass line.
Always running the show.
Boom. Duty.
In the tower, you can bring your pain. In the tower, you can feel the strain. You've been having so much trouble just fitting in.